here we are. This is Sex Love Psychedelics, and I'm your host, Dr. Kat, bringing you psychosexual conversations that will leave you intellectually turned on and hungry for more.
About non-traditional relationships, non-monogamy, consensual non-monogamy, polyamory. There's so many terms, so many variations of how you can form your relationship. And so for me, as somebody who speaks very openly about this topic on podcasts, but also in the professional world, I can't tell you how many times people, therapists, coaches, laypersons will tell me these types of relationships do not work. Do you get that?
A ton. And I'm like, do you see my almost 10-year relationship that's like happy, healthy, and thriving? And all of the sort of either satellite relationships that I've had or relationships that have been a part of my marriage also. And I'm like, still, even, friends and lovers that like fall out of a romantic situation, we're still very close and connected in our friendship. So it's wild. I'm like, wait, this is living proof, but
you're making it up, right?
Yeah,
you're totally making it up.
This is my big life's work, is just this play, this 17-act play that I've been involved in. But people they believe what they want, not what is in front of them, based on their own limiting beliefs and their own sort of like, internal, core values. So if it doesn't align with their value, it's like not possible.
Right. Or their reference points. There's podcasts that people have sent me and been like, well, this psychotherapist or this psychologist says that those don't work, that they've never seen that work. And I was like, sure, if they've never experienced non-traditional relationships, or if they aren't trained to be advocates for non-traditional relationships, then they're not going to know the unique challenges that are possible or that might run into to be able to hold a container for the clients that they're seeing.
Yeah, exactly. And if the clients that they've seen their entire career are only in monogamous containers, then they're going to look at these very, monogamous sort of issues and things like divorce or separation and infidelity as like normal relationship things that they're going to work on, and they would never really see that as a failure because it's like inside of the norm of what they think an expression is. And so this is just other, and they can't both be successful. That's like the biggest thing that I sort of see as it. I mean, not that it's black and white, but it's like just a completely different perspective.
You bring up two words that I love. I want to highlight: failure and success. Yeah. And how we even define that as it relates to relationship. Yes. I hear so many people ask me, what was I was on the podcast Clit Talk, and they were like, I know, I love them too. They're fucking hilarious. And they asked me, if I've had a successful relationship, non-traditional relationship. And I was like, let's define what successful means. Because for me, each of the relationships that were non-traditional, even though they ended the form that it had been, it's been more of a transition into friendship or into a less emotionally invested relationship. And to me, that's successful. Yeah. It just isn't how people define relationship as usually.
I love this conversation. I mean, normally people look at like divorce or cheating or, whatever, just a split as like a failure. And it's like, okay, so the 20 happy years and the 3 children and the, home built or, the charity founded, like whatever it is that a family does or builds, like that's not a success. So I love examining the idea of like a relationship failure or success, because you're right, we get to define that for ourselves. But I think society, like mononormativity, really has us look at like till death do us part. This is like the only thing you could call success. And that's just, it's nearly impossible when you look at statistics. And I mean, my perspective is that non-monogamy actually makes that a lot more possible with sort of the primary partnership setup, if that's your goal, right? Like, which, you know, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah. And this types of these, you know, the way that we talk about relationships as, you know, finding what is most authentic and aligned with you and the people that are involved in what you need.
Yeah. I mean, this just made me think of something really funny, but like, I just went on a trip to Iceland. Well, I went a couple places like all through Europe after that, but I was in Iceland with my two best friends. And I was like, I really need to get some strange. Like, it had been a while since I had hooked up with a guy, and I just wanted that like vacation fling. And I hooked up with this hot Turkish man, and like never spoke to him again. And that was a massive success for me, like big success, like stamp of success, because that's exactly what I wanted, you know? Even like, you know, I've had really pretty bad and toxic relationships before that now I'm like huge success. Like the one right before I met my husband, I bought a home with this guy, and I learned so much about myself in the relationship, all the things that I didn't want in my future. And I look at that and I'm like, big success. Like, had I not learned those things, I would not be where I am today. Even just like the financial success of like having someone to purchase a home with at that time. You know, I was only 26 and I couldn't have done it alone. And then I kept the home, bought him out of the house. And so in like the way that I was looking at it, this really set me up for my future financially. Massive success. You know, did I pay for it in an emotional way that I learned a ton from? Sure. Also big success, the way I can see it now.
Yeah. So here you're describing success as one, being able to meet a goal that you initially set out with. And then the other one is more of what qualities or lessons did I learn from the relationship? Did I acquire from the relationship to evolve and integrate into my coming relationships?
Yeah, exactly. It like goes back to you saying, what needs do I need met right now? Maybe I don't even realize that that's the need. That I need to grow in this area, because we generally don't. When I was younger, I didn't see it. Now I'm like, oh, this is coming up. This is coming in my future. Sort of this growth or this like chapter. But yeah, I think it comes down to like, what needs am I meeting? Exactly as you said.
Especially when we think of ourselves as dynamic people or dynamic creatures, really. You know, we fluctuate, we change, we have different needs, we have different availabilities. And how do we adapt to that, or how do we flex with that versus how are we trying to fit everything into a rigid wall of what we expect our life or our love or our availability to look like?
Yeah, that's so true.
Well, that was fun. Thanks for tuning in, lovers. And if you want to experience more ecstasy and sexual liberation, head over to sexlovepsychedelics.com and learn about how you can join me for any one of my online or live events. And while you're there, grab my free guide on sex and psychedelics. Remember, this podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Please contact your healthcare provider and local law before pursuing any of the products or psychedelics discussed. And one final note here. I make this show specifically for you. If you're loving the show, then be sure to leave me a review in iTunes or Spotify to let me know. Happy to be here and happy to serve. I'll see you next time on Sex Love Psychedelics.